All right, good morning, folks. I have 9 o'clock, so at this time, we'll go ahead and call the workshop into session. We have a full agenda this morning with an extra meeting sparsed in there. So we'll go ahead and get started, and colleagues and superintendent, if you have anything, please just stop me, and we'll go ahead and take care of that. So, of course, the first item was the call to business. Second item is to approve the agenda. And I do have some changes, so stand by as I go through these. First of all, on consent agenda, we deleted item 7.22, training site agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and Northwest Florida State College for American Heart Association training at the request of Mr. Brian Humphrey, Specialist, Student Services, Athletics, and Discipline. We've added item 7.24, Teleforce LLC, task order number 212 for prior security camera upgrades at the request of Mr. Dustin Keith, our specialist for seat management. We added item 7.25, Digibee Health Meter Master Services Agreement at the request of Dr. Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. And then on Superintendent's Human Resources recommendations, we deleted item 8.13, Employee Termination, at the request of Dr. Hale, Assistant Superintendent, and we added item 8.16, request to advertise a public hearing for adoption of a revised job description for Specialist, Accounting and Financial Services at the request of Dr. Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. And so that takes us through the changes to this agenda, okay? And then tonight we're showing no recognitions and no administrative personnel appointments. Section 5 is public comment. This will be members of the public desiring to address the school board regarding agenda items only. Section 6, committee and staff reports. 6.1, in-county travel paid for October 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. And then 6.2 is out-of-county travel paid for October 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. And then 6.3 is a quarterly progress report of the Sales Surtax Citizens Oversight Committee, presented by Mr. Jason Belcher. And Mr. Belcher, I see you in attendance, sir. So please come forward. Welcome again.
Thank you, sir. Members of the board, thank you for having us this morning. Mr. Superintendent, thank you, sir. Just a quick update on the progress and the work of the Citizens Sales Tax Oversight Committee. We last met on December 3rd, which had been the first meeting in some time because of we had deferred one of our meetings due to one of the storms that was close by, so we hadn't met in a while. So it was a good full long meeting, good full hours worth of updates. We received our financial update from Miss Julie Perry, who always does a great job for us. Pleased to see that the collection rate is still higher than we anticipated, both initially with the legislative act and then with the revised projections. So that has been a welcome addition, and appreciate seeing that. We also got our projects update from Joel Linder at Jacobs Titan. Glad to see some of the major projects being completed and on the pace that they're being completed. This has been a real talking point for members of the committee in the community, the speed at which we've been able to handle some of the larger projects. I think the optics of having the bigger, newer buildings, the multi-use buildings, the cafetoriums, that sort of thing has been a great thing to see. For the longest time, for all the right reasons, our deferred growth has caused many in the community to have concern about the trajectory of the district and how we're handling the growth, especially these last 5 years, to see the new buildings go up. I know personally, and I've said this before, having had a mother-in-law that I love dearly that taught for years at Edwins, and seeing the work that's being done there and other places is a real plus for us. So that's been a great conversation that members of the committee have been able to have with the community. See, our next meeting will be on February the 4th, if I jotted that down correctly. And many of us will be attending some of the upcoming events that Ms. Catherine has for us, the ribbon cuttings and some groundbreakings and some other things. So the committee members still continue to be engaged with their community. I'm glad to say that my entire group will stay on for another year, have committed to another year. We're losing one member, and we have a replacement member. But other than that, I think the vast majority of the committee are folks who have been on the board for the entirety of its existence. So that's been good. Again, the only caution that we hear is just, especially, there are generally two types of observations that we hear from the community. There's the general observations of glad to see the progress, when's this going to be done, what are y'all doing about this, kind of the general 30,000 foot kind of conversation. And then we have some folks who are detailed people and understand what the district's trying to take on, and we've had some questions about are we able to complete the projects within the 10 years with the funds that we anticipate to collect. And I'm able to report to them, and the members are, that it seems like we've done a good job, the district's done a good job of making sure that it is taking on projects that can be accomplished within the legislative period. I think that would be one of the single, speaking as a community member, that'd be one of the single best things that the district can do to ensure the renewal of this legislative act for another 10 years. If we're able to accomplish and do so in a way so that we don't extend ourselves with our commitments beyond the 10 years of the revenue flow that we have in place now, that would be phenomenal. As we get to year 7 and 8, if it's obvious that with the savings that is being generated, and there are savings being generated, with the savings that are being generated and with additional funds that are collected above and beyond what was estimated initially, obviously there can be some additional things taken on. But if we are able to show the community, and if we're able to advocate as that sort of that watchdog for the community, that the district has done a good job of bringing in every intended action within the legislative period under the funds that were collected during that time, I think that would be a real selling point going forward. And that's been a discussion point for our committee at almost every meeting, but especially this last one. So having nothing more myself really to report, I'd take any questions that y'all might have.
Anything, colleagues? Oh, they're going to let you off light, Mr.
That is really, man, 4 minutes. That's like a new record. I'm going to get out of here while I can.
Well, you know, we have another little quick meeting to hold here.
Yes,
But,
sir, Dr.
I
White.
just want to thank you, Mr. Belcher,
Oh,
for
easy.
everything
Thank you, sir.
you've done, and listen to all the meetings and studying the different items and bringing that forward. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, just again, as the citizens' mouthpiece, our committee is, it's our job to try to give voice to any issues that we might see.
Yes, sir.
But to this point, things have gone extremely well. In interaction with Grant and Bill and Miss Julie and all of the district staff, with Marcus, with the leadership all the way down, has been great. With this board has been great. And we've been pleased as a committee with everything that we've seen. It's very difficult to have a negative opinion or come to you expressing anything negative, because it has gone well, by God's grace. Knock on artificial wood.
We're with you.
Things have gone extremely well. So we are pleased with that, and we, as citizens who care about our school district, are here to help in any way. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, colleagues, we've got a few more minutes here, so we'll go ahead and keep rolling through these agenda items. All right, so the next section will be the consent agenda. First of all is approval. Second will be to approve the minutes of the workshop meeting of November 12th, 2024, minutes of the regular meeting November 12th, 2024, minutes of the organizational meeting of November 19th, 2024, all recommended by the superintendent. 7.3 is the appointment of members to the 2025 Sales Surtax Citizens Oversight Committee, presented by Mr. Grant Meyer, Assistant Superintendent, and recommended by Superintendent Chambers.
I'd like to make a comment on
Yes,
that.
ma'am. Sure.
We have a new one coming out of District 3, which is where I have, and so I'd like to thank Ms. Amanda Autry for stepping up and coming in to be looked at to come onto that committee, because, you know, it's great to have people from different areas, and I appreciate her coming in and out of the Baker area.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. All right, so 7.4 will be a budget amendment number 2, fiscal year 24-25, presented by Ms. Perry, and recommended by the superintendent.
I have a question on that one.
Yes, sir.
Is that an increase? Tell me about that number. The
Superintendent, we'd like to call Ms. Perry forward. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
You're talking about for the general fund, the $2 million? Yes, what happened was there's school recognition money. Ever since we've had COVID, it's not a part of the FEFP, so it's not budgeted in advance. Once we received that allocation, we did budget the money. So I just wanted to point out in there that even though it's a $2 million increase, the majority of that is the school recognition money.
and can you explain the school recognition?
That's for the schools that have been rated A or increased a letter grade from the previous year, or had an increase of 2 letter grades and had that hold over a year. And that money is used by the schools. Everyone at the school is allowed to put in a plan, and the plans are voted on by the employees and approved by the SAC. They have to be approved no later than February 1st. And the majority are used for bonuses, but they can be used for bonuses or for educational equipment and supplies or temporary personnel to help with things like tutoring.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Mr. Heinley, which is a very good question, and as Mrs. Perry was explaining where it used to be a part of the budget, but the used to be a part of the budget, that allocation comes from the state of Florida. So now that allocation comes from the state of Florida later. So that's why it's before us right now. So it's not necessarily money that is a part of our budget. Again, it's dollars that are coming from the state for the specific purpose outlined in statute.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I guess I'd just like to add that this was all part of the incentive process of the state moving us into this era of accountability. And sometimes we worry about if we're going to receive those funds, and because they do come late. Okay, so 7.5, monthly financial statement for October 2024, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.6, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.7, school donations, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent.
Dr. White, if I
Yes,
could
sir.
comment, again, just thank you to our community for sponsoring these programs that are on this agenda. A lot of great, a lot of big names on there that have donated a lot of money. So.
I'd like to add to that. If you look at the spreadsheet there, year to date, over $250,000
Yeah.
from our businesses and individuals.
Yes.
That's huge.
All right. 7.8, payroll warrant register and accounts payable warrant register totaling $38,088,611.92. Self-health insurance claims and fees totaling $3,776,752.16, and bank transfers totaling $20,400,000 for October 2024, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent for approval. All right, 7.9, ITB 25-03 OTC North Classroom Remodel, presented by Mr. Vince Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.10, renewal of ITB 21-02 Custodial Chemicals and Supplies, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent.
Dr. White,
Yes,
can
sir.
we go back to 7.9?
Yes, sir.
The North Classroom remodel, I see Mr. Williams is sitting out in the audience. Is this regarding our new technical school up on the north? Okay. All right, just wanted to double
All
check.
right, yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay. All right, so 7.11, renewal of ITB 21-03 Fire Sprinkler Inspection Services, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.12, tag-on bid purchase over $50,000 Lancaster Johnson and Associates, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.13, tag-on bid purchase over $50,000 Talk of the Town Speech Therapy, presented by Mr. Vince Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. And at this time, I'm going to recess this meeting And we'll go ahead and call us into our school board leasing corporation meeting. Mr. McInnes, we've called this meeting to order, and so the first item of business, I believe, is to approve the agenda for the board leasing corporation, so I need a motion, colleagues.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bryant.
Second.
Second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Section 3 is the approval of the minutes. Will require two separate motions. First motion will be to approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2023 meeting.
I move it.
Motion by Ms. Vancheck.
Second.
Second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Second item is the minutes of the meeting of December the 11th, 2023. Need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bryant.
Second.
Second by Ms. Vancheck. Any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And at this time, Mr. McInnes, I'll turn over Section 4 to you, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The bylaws of the corporation call for the board of directors to be the seated members of the school board. So the first action today is a request that you elect the members of the board of directors of the leasing corporation, and those would be the named current members of the school board.
This is usual and customary, so we need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bryant.
Second.
Second by Ms. Vancheck. Any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 2 is the annual election of officers of the board of directors of the leasing corporation, and those officers are to be the same officers as the school board. And so we would ask now that that you consider the election of your board of director officers to be the president is the chairman, Dr. White. The vice president would be our vice chairman, Ms. Vancheck, and the secretary treasurer of the board, I believe, is the superintendent.
And again, this is usual and customary, so we need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Heinley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bryant. Any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And the
then
third
finally, excuse me, yes, sir.
Third item, Mr. Chairman, is annually, we have to pay just the update annual filing fee to the Secretary of State Division of Corporations, and we ask this board's approval to pay that fee.
We'll need a motion, colleagues.
So moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Bryant. Second by Ms. Vancheck. Any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, so we will conclude that meeting and move us back into our regular workshop, okay? So we are on item 7.14, renewal of tag on bid annual agreement for portable moving services presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.15, authorization for the Director of MIS and Instructional Technology to sign a standard student data privacy agreement documents when requested as addendums to contracts, presented by Mr. Spolsky and recommended by the superintendent. 7.16, school affiliation agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and North Florida Division 1 to include all healthcare facilities on Schedule 1, page 13, presented by Mr. John Williams, Director, Okaloosa Technical College, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. 7.17, course code adoptions for Okaloosa Technical College for the 25-26 school year, presented by Mr. Williams and recommended by the superintendent.
Dr. White?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, have we had plumbing at the, okay, so is this something that's new that we're adding? Okay. I just saw that on there. I didn't realize we, okay, thank you.
All right, takes us to 7.18, renewal of school affiliation agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and White Wilson Medical Center, presented by Mr. John Williams, Director, Okaloosa Technical College, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. All right, 7.19, appointment of selection committee for RFP 25-01, Food Service Management Operations, presented by Mr. Anderson, Program Director, Food Services, and recommended by the superintendent.
And Dr. White,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind, I want Mr. Meyer to come forward just for a moment and just kind of share just a brief update on where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, board members. Yes, so we have started the RFP for food services. We've looked at the RFP itself. Our attorney has looked through that as well. We're setting the committee. We are looking to do pre-RFP meetings in the next few weeks. When we return from the holidays, we're going to put that out for the companies that might be interested. And our target date is July 1st of 2025 to go with either the existing food manager or somebody new. So, but we've started the process, and we're gathering all those documents and working with finance, and we'll put that out to the companies that are interested. Any questions?
How often do we do that?
Every 5 years.
5 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we've been with the nutrition group for the last 5 years, so
And they want to continue?
they do. And we have heard there are other parties interested as well.
Anything else?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, sir.
Meyer.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, 7.20, agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Lutheran Services of Florida, Head Start Serving Okaloosa County, presented by Ms. Amy Dale, Title I Program Director, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. 7.21, 2025 Okaloosa County School District Legislative Priorities, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent.
And Dr. White, if you don't mind, and to the board, this is just a reminder. At the last board workshop, we went through our legislative priorities in depth. This is a reminder that we'll be meeting with our local legislators as well as other state leaders across the state. This is I'll call it a joint effort in terms of, you'll see some language here that will be in the FADS, the Superintendent's Association, also the School Board Association as well. I think you'll also see some language that many districts will also have in here. But I do want to say that our legislative priorities for Okaloosa are in 4 categories: student behavior policy reforms, education funding and resource allocation, risk management, and then reducing regulation in public schools, which we call deregulation. But I do want to just highlight for the board just a few things in the student behavior. I think one of the pieces that we put here is that there's an assumption that when our employees are interacting with students, that they're doing so in good faith. And that also goes with state statute that's there. So we're looking at just addressing that statute just a little bit. And then also in that second bullet that we have in our legislative priorities, where we want to partner with families. And we shared at the last school board workshop that we're blessed here in Okaloosa County to have amazing parents and families that support their children and support our schools. There are the very small few where we want to ensure that that partnership is there. If we have student behaviors that we need to be able to work together with the families, that we are working together. So this puts some teeth into that. And then just as we have mental health counselors that came from the state, also looking at board certified behavior analysts, which they call BCBAs, and behavior analysts, which is just a little bit of a lower step there. But there is a understanding that student behaviors are different today, and I think that we need to talk about that more. And every student that comes to us are students that we love and students that we're going to support, but we want to make sure that we have the resources to be able to do so. And this is a state issue, this is a national issue, but I think this is something that we have the ability to bring a little bit more light on. Going forward in the education funding and resource allocation, I think we all know that compression is real, both on the teacher instructional side and the educational support side. And so I think this board believes in, I know I do, in the new teacher salary, making sure it's as competitive as can be, but we also need to make sure that we're taking care of our more experienced teachers as well, so that compression is not continuing to compress. So we would like to see additional funding to be able to really support our more experienced teachers. This board has done a great job with the funds that we have allocated in trying to do the best that we can for our teachers of all levels, for our educational support professionals of all levels, as well as administrators. So I appreciate that, but that'll be a conversation, continued conversation and emphasis and focus on safe school funding. We're blessed here in Okaloosa that our county commissioners support our schools and help with the safe schools funding in terms of school resource officers. There's a 50-50 split. In some places, that doesn't happen. In other places, there's just different varying funding models. So we just appreciate our county commissioners and our sheriff in support of our schools. Additionally, on the reducing regulation, you'll hear deregulation, and I call it a buzzword, but anywhere where we can deregulate, we need to, but specifically looking at teacher certifications. If you look at, well, if you remember what Dr. Hale elaborated on just one example of a teacher, all the certifications that they have to get in a certain amount of time. And then there's also the veteran teachers who have to get certain certifications as well, and then let alone the ESC teachers. It's a lot. I brought up at our superintendent's meeting last week, really looking at bringing back the middle grades integrated certification, which allows an ESC teacher to get one certification beyond the ESC certification, so they don't have to get math, science, social studies, and English. That went over very well, but we would also want to extend that to the high schools additionally. And then the last piece is looking at the risk management, and you remember the bullets that are there. So it's just a quick summary of what's before you tonight. Want to be able to memorialize this and have action on these legislative priorities that we would then bring to our local delegates as well as other state leaders. And that's all I have on that.
Dr. White,
Yes, sir.
do we have is there a designated board member that meets with our representative and senator to represent the board as a
I'm
whole?
not sure, Superintendent, if we've moved to that formal process. I know in the past, board members have been invited and have often spoken at these legislative delegations, but that would be something that if you're interested, that maybe talk with the superintendent about. And Superintendent, we'd leave it up to you to determine how you'd want to move forward with something like that.
Absolutely, and I would a couple things, because I know Mr. Bryan, I believe, is a designee for the school board as well. But like Dr. White said, school board members all have the ability to do exactly what you're asking. And then as a reminder, we have the group that we're working with that's helping us push our legislative priorities on our behalf. So I think with that group, us as a team, as well as individual conversations, pushing these legislative priorities, I think that's something that's advisable. And the one thing that I forgot to say, which I think will be pushed across the state, not necessarily from us necessarily, I think there'll be a re-examination of school start times and whether some adjustments would be made there.
Yeah.
So I believe that school start times is definitely one of those, it's definitely hit Tallahassee pretty hard right now. And what looks good on paper doesn't always pan out on paper or in real life. And I really believe that's going to change. So it's going to come back to the districts being able to determine what time. But to just answer Mr. Heinley's question, I know the superintendent and I have talked just as the advocacy designee moving forward that we try when we do the day in the legislature in March, that we take our new lobbyist group and we all go together, because when I go to Tallahassee with FSBA, I am representative of FSBA, but I'm also representing Okaloosa County, so I do take our legislative priorities. But there is a lot of school districts that try to go together as a team with their superintendent. So I'm hoping that we might be able to do that this year. The invite will be there if we choose to go as a team, but you're free as a school board member. You can go. You don't even have to go with us. You can go on your own to to advocate. I think the more that we get into their ears, the better we are. We are fortunate. We do have Judge Maney, and now we'll have Senator Gates. I think those two will be very big proponents for us. Senator Trumbull, and of course now with Representative Dr. Rudman resigning, we're going to have a new District 3 representative. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to get a lot of support. It's just a matter of getting in their ear and talking to them and telling them what's important to us. So,
And I would just add, as a helpful comment to my colleagues, to certainly consult with Mr. McInnes to make sure that we stay clear of any kind of issues associated with open discussions that we may end up voting on as to how we proceed with something like that. Okay? All right, that's a good question. Yes, sir. Anything else?
And then the last thing I'll say is with our local delegates, we will also try to meet here in Okaloosa with them one-on-one, but then also go into Tallahassee to have some time, but then with also other state leaders as well.
All right.
and if I'm not mistaken, I think the legislative, where they meet with the public is going to be in Shalimar in a couple, I think it's next week. It's where, and if you want to speak before them, you can just, I think the deadline is Wednesday. You can ask to speak in front of them. You get like 2 minutes to talk to them.
So, Mr. Chambers, are you going to be speaking at that?
We have spoken with Representative Maney, who's in essence was kind of coordinating that, and we have, I'll just say, come to an understanding that we will share our information with him and the other delegates in our meetings, as well as state leaders in our meetings.
Okay. And then, Mr. Bryant, I have a question for you. So the items that we have on this legislative priority coming out of Okaloosa, as far as the Florida School Board Association, did those seem to line up with what they are pushing this time?
Yes, ma'am, they do, and I appreciate the superintendent and his staff really coordinating not just with the Florida School Boards Association, but the superintendent's organization. I think looking at the priorities, they did a good job of tying them in with statewide initiatives that I think are definitely going to help us get a lot of those across the finish line, because I believe that pretty much all the other districts are lining up the same way. I think what we found out that is if you go against, if you have I don't want to say go rogue, but if you just kind of go with your set of plans, sometimes you might only get one win out of it, but I can see on this legislative platform we'll get a lot more than one win out of it. So I'm pretty confident that it's a good platform and that there's going to be a lot of movement on those. So to answer your question, yes, it does meet with FSBA's legislative priorities.
Because it seems to me that the more we, like you said, the more we can get on board, the better. And so if all these that we're talking about here, these priorities are coming out throughout the state,
Yes.
then that better chance of the legislature looking at them and making some changes.
Yeah. So I can tell you last week in Tampa, just talking with school board members across the state and even some superintendents, the school start time is definitely the hot item right now. And it looks like Miami-Dade is going to be the leader on that. And if you got the third largest school district in the country leading that charge, or the fourth largest, I think that says something, because they have over 300,000 students. We have 34,000, and it's definitely got the attention of Tallahassee right now. That's why I feel like there's going to be some adjustments to it. I personally feel that way, but again, we don't know until the end of the legislation period and the governor signs everything into law. So,
Well, I'd just like to say those legislators, they like to count.
yes, they do.
And if you get Miami-Dade and then you add Broward and West Palm,
Yeah.
well, that's half the state. So I think we've got a good chance there.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on that item?
That's it on that item.
Okay. All right, so 7.22, as you remember from the beginning, has been deleted. 7.23, IT seat management outsourcing agreement contract modification, change order, 30-day extension presented by Mr. Mitchell, MIS, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.24, Teleforce task order number 212 for prior security camera upgrades presented by Mr. Keith and recommended by the superintendent.
Dr. White, I'd
Yes, sir.
like to just say that the briefing I received from Mr. Mitchell was excellent. It dumbed down it enough for a level that I understood what was going on. So that was very much appreciated.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm sure you understood it, but thank you, Mr. Mitchell. All right, then 7.25, Digsby Health Master Services between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Digsby Health to provide precision care to employees, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent.
I'd just like to say, I see Miss Cato's out there. Once again, appreciate another step in working with our employees in the health area, preventive. She and I had a long discussion about this and different things that have come by. And again, if you look at the improvements and things we've done in the last few years in that area with the BOG and risk management, our insurance for employees, it's incredible what we've been able to do, and it's so good to see that another avenue for helping our employees is there. So thank you for looking at that.
And Ms. Ivanchek, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think we've positioned ourselves well in the insurance area, and I think Mr. Frakes, if you go back, had done a great job taking it to another level, and I say that to say Ms. Cato's come in and done an absolutely outstanding job. The communication is stellar.
Yes.
From the emails to going out to schools and the one-on-one visits. So I just could not be more appreciative. The work with the BOG in terms of what they've done to really revolutionize, and I use that word purposefully, revolutionize the insurance for all of our employees. The benefits is outstanding, and they're not stopping. They're continuing to look at ways we can get even better, and I just very much appreciate that.
Yeah, before Ms. Cato, I filled her ear with the history and my, chirping on things from the time I came on the board and my concerns, but she listened to all that and it was good. But in using Mr. Heinley's words, she's also good at dumbing it down and getting right to the point of how it affects the employees, and I appreciate that because insurance can be a little convoluted sometimes as well. So, thank you.
Yep. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you. Okay, so that takes us now to Superintendent's Human Resources recommendations. 8.1, information only, employees on administrative leave. 8.2, information only, deferred retirement option program. And then 8.3 is a request to advertise a public hearing for the adoption of a new job description for Director Budgeting and Financial Services, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent.
And Dr. White,
Yes, sir.
on these next series of job descriptions, I know there was a couple questions as to these items. So these are not job descriptions looking at creating new positions. These are job descriptions that is clearly delineating the responsibility of individuals who are currently in that role. Mrs. Perry does a great job of scrubbing a multitude of areas, and this is just one of those areas, just making sure that the job descriptions meet what the individuals are doing. HR from time to time also does that, but Ms. Perry got with Dr. Hale, and this is what's before you on these next set of job descriptions.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
So, Dr. White,
Yes,
just
sir.
when you say a public hearing, this is going through the DOE, right?
It's a public hearing for us to look at these job descriptions and approve them, Mr. Heinley.
Okay.
And Mr. McInnes, anything you
Yes,
would
so
add there?
we adopt job descriptions using the same process we use for adopting board policies. So we'll do a notice and then have a public hearing, and then the board can consider the adoption at that point.
And I would just add that from my experience, this too is a a routine and regular thing that we do. I would say, and certainly I've talked with the superintendent and Mr. McInnes about this, and when you have employees that are currently occupying those positions, and you start looking at changing job responsibilities, I know those are issues that you guys discuss, and you take it through the appropriate legal process to make sure that we're doing those new duties and responsibilities accurately. Is that right? Okay. But this will be for us. All right. 8.4, request to advertise a public hearing for the adoption of a new job description for Director, Accounting and Financial Reporting, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. And then 8.5, request to advertise a public hearing for adoption of revised job description for Specialist Budgeting and Financial Services, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. And I just add that while these are coming from Dr. Hale as our Assistant Superintendent, that technically Ms. Perry is directly involved in all of this, okay? 8.6, advertise a public hearing for adoption revised job description for Budget Analyst by Dr. Hale, recommended by the Superintendent. 8.7, request to advertise a public hearing for adoption of revised job description for Financial Analyst, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. And then we get to 8.8, employment separations by Dr. Hale and recommended by
Dr. White, if I could back up just one thing.
Which one?
To 8.4 through .7.
Okay, yes, sir.
I just wanted to give kudos to Ms. Perry. She got me a org chart. Parker, you might want to see this because it helped out a lot. I can finally look out here and figure out where everybody is located. But thank you very much for that. So.
Yep. And Mr. Heinley, I'll just say that in my tenure on this school board, if you knew all the different permutations we went through to get those things over the years, but yes, sir, it was very, very helpful and very good, and thank you for that comment. All right, employment separations, I think we got that one. All right. 8.9, employee transfers, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. And then 8.10, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.11, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.12, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.13, as you remember, was deleted. 8.14, reinstatement reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical examination, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. 8.15, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent. And then 8.16, request to advertise another public hearing for the adoption of a revised job description for Specialist Accounting and Financial Services, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. So that takes us through the personnel items. Section 9, we don't have any discussion items there at this time. 10.1 is a program status report by the board's representative to the construction program. So we're prepared for that if you're prepared to deliver it.
I am not.
Okay.
I do have my first meeting with them after this board meeting.
Okay. All right. Very good, Mr. Heinley. Well, you'll have something soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right. 10.2, funding and owner direct purchase, ODP, for Central Admin Building Phase 2 furniture for the GMP phase of task order number 24, presented by Dr. Bill Smith, Facilities and Planning, and recommended by the Superintendent.
So I looked at all that, 97 pages of all those. It's exciting, and it just seems like every day it's coming along. Where's Dr. Bill? Yeah.
Right in the corner.
And it all looks really good. Did you pick all those colors yourself? Well, you did a good job. So, but it's exciting that we're getting some changes here at our central complex, and all of that looks really good. So it's, I know when they start ordering your furniture, it's getting closer. So that's good. So thank you.
And I would just like to comment to Mr. Heinley, who is now going to be our representative. I did you a solid today. I signed 97 forms there for all that furniture. So you're good.
Good.
I think that means he's turning it over to you.
Yes, yeah.
You got it.
All right. All right, so then that takes us to our attorney's business. Mr. McInnes.
One item, Mr. Chairman, tonight's meeting, I'm going to ask the board's permission to ratify the referral of we had an employee suspension. The board had approved. The employee has requested an appeals hearing, and that's been referred over to the Division of Administrative Hearings, and we simply need the board to ratify that referral.
All right, colleagues, and so all that means that we'll need a motion when that item comes forward
Yes, sir.
from our attorney tonight, okay?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, Superintendent, your business, sir.
Thank you, Dr. White, School Board. Just a couple reminders. We have 2 ribbon cuttings this week. We have Ruckle Middle School tomorrow at 9, the new cafetorium, and then also a cafetorium at Wright Elementary on Wednesday at 9. But I know we'll be communicating with you all, but just as a reminder, and then our Pine View groundbreaking that's coming up, and that'll be December 19th at 9. And stay tuned on that. There's a lot that we're going to be doing for that. 'Cause this is a big deal. First time since about 2007-8, and in the 1990s before that. Ms. Vanchek, you might have a couple statements.
Well, I wanted to know if I can request a pink hard hat so that I can stand out up there. But no, I'm excited about that, and it's a wonderful. I've not had that experience. I think many of us haven't had since we've been on the board, and so because it's been a while since, like you said, since we've had a new school. But I'm looking forward to it. I hope the rain holds off and we can get out there, and because I understand there's a lot of dirt out there that's ready to get us. But I'm excited. I think
There's a lot of dirt there.
yeah, it's going to be great,
Yes.
and so I'm just hoping there's a road to get down there now.
Mr. Meyer will take care of us, and I think Mr. Meyer has requested no hard hats for this one, so it'll be interesting to see how it all rolls out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. And then we have just a little bit of information, the Congressional App Challenge that we do every year. We do have for our area, there were 3 teams that placed first, second, and third at Niceville High School. But the first place team, Memory Monsters app. So that's the app that they created, and they'll be going to Washington, D.C. And that's Luke Chavers, Chase Robbins, and Sebastian Shinnick. So that's just exciting. And when that part is done, we'll get more information on that app. Historically, these apps are pretty sophisticated, things that I could never in a million years come up with, but just amazing at what these students are able to do. Just an update for the board, just so you know, we will start the 2025-2026 budget here soon. We always are evaluating, we always are looking at it, but the actual process, Mrs. Perry, will start in the January timeframe with district departments, go into the April timeframe, school budgets, and then the May timeframe when the state adopts the budget or the governor signs the budget, and then those budgets going out to schools. But to have a budget dealing with a $900 million budget, it takes a lot of time, conversation in order to do that. So I just appreciate the work of Ms. Perry, but also each of our assistant superintendents in their areas, as well as the work that our principals do to get the budgets finalized. But we're starting that process. Do want to say congratulations to a few teams, and I'll be brief because you all may want to say something about that as well. But we've already talked about Ms. Vanchek's Baker Gators in terms of going to the finals in volleyball, which she might talk about a little bit more. I know you've said something before. Choctaw High School with the Elite 8 in football, and I'll just stop there, Dr. White. And then Niceville High School, Mr. Heinley in the Final Four, a few overtimes, almost made it to the finals. But it's just another example when we talk about the A+ school district, academics, athletics, the arts, and having well-rounded programs. If you go back several years ago, we weren't competing at a state level like we are now for championships. So it's just a great work what our coaches and athletes are doing and the commitment that they put forth, because to go forward that far in athletics is not easy. We are currently in the progress monitoring season. As you know, the new state models, there's 3 assessments, a PM1, 2, and 3. So we are in the progress monitoring 2 season. So Mrs. Lightbourne works with all of our schools. We'll look at how our students progress from PM1 to PM2. Once those results come out, Mrs. Lightbourne meets with each of those schools, especially schools where we may want to make some tweaks in concert with the principal and those teachers, and give them support and resources to do so. But I just appreciate Mrs. Lightbourne and her team, 1, knowing all the data, and 2, talking with our schools and adjustments that need to be made if in fact we need to, and then also celebrating just the successes of our kids making progress. So I just appreciate that very much. And then 2 other quick pieces. 1, the Military Bowl, as you remember, we talked about Fort Walton Beach High School. They will be a part of the Military Bowl on December 28th at 5:45. That'll be on ESPN, so we'll see our band program in action. And again, it's just another reflection of the band programs in Okaloosa, second to none. Ms. Beasley, if you would come forward. I wanted just Ms. Beasley to briefly share with the board, just give an update on where we are with CTE.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent and board. I'm excited. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I get very passionate about career and technical education. All right, we have a 5-member staff that helps us oversee our $6 million in grants and our 3,000 industry certifications that we give each year. They all work hard, so I just wanted to give them some props. A quick overview of CTE very quickly. We have 68 career and technical education teachers at our middle school and high schools. Currently just at 8,500 students enrolled in CTE classes this school year. We have 21 programs in the high school. In those programs last year, 2,074 industry certifications were earned. And that's a big deal because I want to remind everyone, those are industry certifications that people take out in the real world. EKG technician, ServSafe, a myriad of different types of certifications. So we're really proud of our schools and our students. In our middle schools, we have 7 middle school programs. 552 industry certifications were earned last year. That's at the middle school level, so that's very impressive. And then 1,100 digital tool certificates earned. All of that combines and totals close to $2 million earned last school year in FTE funds for our programs. And so we're that's something we want to celebrate. Here's a quick, these next 2 slides are just quick, a graphic of all of the programs that we offer. They're color-coded for us by program areas. As you can see, we offer lots of different programs, which is important because we try to tailor that to our community and our schools' needs. For example, we just added ag at Baker and soon next year Laurel Hill, and that's based on community recommendations.
And by ag, you mean agriculture.
Oh, yes, sir, sorry. Agricultural, ag science, yes. Agricultural science. Our middle school programs, again, those schools feed into our high school programs, so we want to make sure that they're aligned accordingly. And that they, are, again, we're planning for the future. This is our biggest grant that we are working on currently. It's a $1 million workforce capitalization incentive grant. This grant, it helped us begin 2 new programs at Crestview, the Principles of Teaching program and the Civics Academy program. We're very excited to be the first high school in the state to begin teaching with I'll mess this up, but the ALL EV IDEV. Essentially, it's a Tesla 3 replica, and it is a simulator so that students can go in there and learn the codes similar to what they do with the traditional cars, but this is with the electric car technology. We've just ordered it. It takes about 9 months to get, but we're excited to see that in action. Also,
Mr. Musk will be here next week to help us kick this off.
I'll be there for that.
Yeah, me too. Also, we purchased a 911 simulator and a sim rig. The sim rig will be installed this week. It's technology and innovations are so advanced now. It is essentially an ambulance simulator, so it's a big piece of equipment that students can practice getting in and loading students in and out of. It's pretty exciting. We're really excited to see at Crestview our 911 dispatch students working with our emergency medical responder students together using those equipment. So we're really excited about that grant. And also, we need to do some renovations to Crestview to accommodate that Tesla car, so we've started that.
Can you tell the
Yes, sir.
principles of teaching in Civics Academy? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, so it is for students who want to go into further, want to go in and be educators after high school. So we're trying to grow our own. And so they will be taking classes that will lead and articulate at the college level.
And Mr. Heinley, so this is also part of that effort with HR, knowing that there's a teacher shortage across the nation, and doing what we can do here with our own students to hopefully become teachers one day. Ms. Ivanchek, you'll remember the young lady at Baker who was a standout student there who wants to be a teacher one day. It would have been nice to even have this program at that time, but being able to come back and serve our community.
Yes, absolutely.
Renovations are a big part of our grants to accommodate and make sure that we're staying ahead of the game. Many of you were at the Baker ribbon cutting ceremony. We did a tour of some of the renovations there. Over $100,000 in commercial grade kitchen equipment at Baker recently. And then we have a $360,000 renovation at Crestview for their automotive program to accommodate the EV training car.
So take one step back on the kitchen equipment upgrade. So you look at the culinary programs, and I'm just going to make a quick statement, and then you elaborate.
Yes, sir.
So they're not just cooking. So they're learning the business side of everything. Just elaborate just a little bit on that.
Yeah, so they try to emulate industry. So they're doing everything from planning out cost analysis. How much does it cost to make this meal? If we did it, we charged people, learning the front of the house and the back of the house as far as the culinary world, learning everything from baking and cooking and sous chef pieces, but also the front of the house and managing and developing a menu and marketing and those kinds of things. So it's important that they have everything that they need to do that in the best way. And so that's what that renovation was for.
Do you have a placement service that's tied into all these CT programs?
You mean for when they get done?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. We have, and it's another slide, but we have business advisory councils that are industry focused on, and that so that we can place people. We also are students. We also work with the Economic Development Council, and we're actually part of a new initiative for internships to try to get them interning before they're done with schooling. But yes, we do try to place students. Most of our teachers have really good connections, and we have those advisory boards that we look to try and make sure our students get placed.
And an extension of that also, with Mr. Williams back there with the OTC, they also have all their own industry boards as well, and they do a great job of working to place students from OTC into our local workforce.
In many cases, right now, we have students who are working in industry fields while they're in high school, and then they just turn full-time after. And so it's a good win-win for both our students because they're getting that experience, but also for our industry partners because they're vetting them, and then they can see, we really want him to be a full-time person or her to be a full-time person. So, yes, sir. Building trade skills competition, we just hosted this. I'm a very competitive person. Obviously, you all know I'm married to a football coach. I wasn't sure how this was going to work out, but we were very pleased by it. This is in partnership with our True Plumbing and Gas, the Building Industry Association, and the Future Builders of America. And it was a plumbing competition at the Landing in Fort Walton Beach. We had 20 students in teams of 2 compete, and if you look at the pictures there, you can see there was a mock wall, and the students there was just a big tubs of pieces of plumbing, and they had to plumb out the wall for a washing machine and a sink. It was very impressive to see them working together. The fastest team, Choctaw, won this first year, and they did it in 4 minutes and 26 seconds. So crazy fast, like very, very impressive. We're excited to do more of these in the future. We don't just stop at elementary or at middle and high school for CTE. We try to offer support at the elementary level as well. This summer we had 10 summer camps ranging from everything from welding to cosmetology for elementary students. We also have 9 elementary schools currently who offer kids coding clubs after school, and so there's a lot of exciting things happening. This next is another example of us bridging into that elementary world. We recently were awarded a building math skills grant for $15,000 from Florida Power and Light and the Public Education Foundation. We have 22 fifth grade students that Mr. Ryan Arison, who was a building trades teacher and now works with our department, he goes there roughly about every 7 class days, and they get pulled out of their PE class and they work on those foundational math skills through building trades. Right now in these pictures, they're working on their gingerbread bird houses that they're making. But we hope to, make that a touring thing that travels to more of our elementary schools in the district. As I spoke about earlier, we're very involved in our community. We look to them for our business advisory boards to get input and to also help us which programs we need to add, which ones we need to dagger, and any modifications we need to make sure we're providing students all the skills they need to be successful after high school. Does anyone have any questions? I know I said a lot real quick, but your time is really valuable.
I just think it's fabulous to see how much it's grown in the last few years, and I really like that we're starting with the younger students and bringing that forward and so many different things. So thank you for all of that. I appreciate seeing everything and all those details, and I would like to see how we can find ways to get this more out to our public to know that we're doing this. So that would be good. Yeah.
I would just comment that I appreciate our school district taking the lead from Governor DeSantis, who has a goal of by the year 2030 to be the nation's leader in CTE programs, and to see all of these programs that we have to offer is just truly exciting. And I do believe that's a correlation to why our graduation rates are higher, because we are now capturing these students who have an interest in school now, and they have to have that high school diploma in order to be able to get out into these jobs. But also the community involvement. I know Step One Automotive up at Crestview High School is really big, and if you ever get a chance to explore our automotive program up there at Crestview High School, it is like actually going into a full-fledged mechanic shop and everything, and they will do work on their car and all that. I know I've had the opportunity for them to do some work on our cars, so it takes a couple of days, but that's okay. It gives them the training and all. But Ms. Beasley, to you and your team, thank you for all that you do. CTE does work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right.
Ms. Beasley, go back one quick slide. And I just say this for our board and for those who might be interested. Working with these community partners is critical. And so the CTE courses that we have here, we want them to be courses that truly translate into jobs here locally. And that's what our CTE department has done a great job of. You look at the Okaloosa Technical College with the North End campus. They've worked a lot with our One Okaloosa. So I just appreciate Mr. Williams doing that. But then the same thing with our carpentry programs, same thing with artificial intelligence, machine learning. So it's just really being engaged with our community. CTE does a great job of that. OTC does a great job of that, and just appreciate their work.
All right.
All right, very
Thank you, Ms.
good.
Beasley.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beasley. Okay, so that now takes us down to Section 13, Board Members' Announcements. And so, as usual, Mr. Heinley, sir, I'll start with you if you have something.
Yes, first off, kudos to Mr. Bryant. He ran a great conference at the FSBA conference. Parker and I attended it and learned a lot. And Tim's got it going on with that group. He's got it motivated, and it was a well-run conference. On the app challenge, I just wanted to point out that Niceville won first, second, and third place in that. So kudos to them as well. And, of course, the football game Friday night, man, I don't know if y'all listened to it. Yeah. They streamed it. Many businesses in the county had it streaming. It was exciting. And I think that announcer on the streaming thing won't ever have a job again after that was very curious. But, boy, it was exciting. No shame to Niceville. They took it to the Final Four and was just so close to being at the state championship game. Very exciting. And finally, today is the 9th. So who is the 9th President of the United States?
I forgot to look.
No, we didn't do our homework.
Nobody?
Zachary Taylor?
He was 10th. No, he was 12th, sorry. So he was 12th. Polk was 11th. You're
Fillmore.
Closer.
One more, Fillmore.
Getting close.
I'll give you a hint. He was the shortest time in the presidency, 31 days.
William Henry Harrison.
Tyler.
William Henry Harrison. Let me see your phone.
Got my phone out. I was getting close.
Okay, add on to that, since there's only 31 days, who was the 40th president of the United States?
Is it Kennedy?
No,
No.
40th.
40th.
Ford?
Carter?
No.
That was 41.
Reagan
Reagan. There you go. You got it.
may have had a little help from the gallery.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Evanchek.
Yes, I have a couple things. Well, back on the football, a couple weeks ago, on that Friday night, we had Baker, Choctaw, and Niceville all playing in postseason. So I was listening and doing, it was great. So it's exciting to see so many of our fall sports going into, going farther past season. It's really great. On the foundation side, this is really exciting. Eglin Federal Credit Union just came up with a whole bunch of money, $1.9 million, and chose 10 local charities to give the money to. And fortunately, our Okaloosa Public Schools Foundation received $200,000. And this we were just shocked, amazing that we got this, and we're so appreciative of them giving. That's going to help us with so many different things. So that's very exciting going into the new year that we got that donation from the credit union. Also want to remind everyone, a lot of our schools right now have concerts and programs in music, whether it be their choral programs or their band programs. Get out and see these students. They are so talented, and they always put on a great show. I'm sure almost every school is presenting something, so you have a big opportunity to get out there, whether it's the kindergartner or the high school performers. So get out and try and see a program that's on their website, and I'm sure they're sending out their newsletters, but always do a fabulous job in doing concerts this time of year. That's all, Dr. White.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Bryant.
Thank you, Dr. White, and thank you, Mr. Hindley, for the compliment there. I will just say that to this board, I appreciate your support in my being the president this year of the Florida School Boards Association. Mr. Chambers, I appreciate your support. I will just say that it's a team effort. I'm just one person, but our theme was being game changers, and I know that our school board has been game changers over the last few years, but it was exciting to be able to lead this particular conference. What's interesting about it is now I'm on my way out, so I got 6 more months to go, and it's hard to believe it's already been half a year, but really exciting. A lot of great things came out of it. I'll just say that I had an opportunity to meet with many school board members. What was pretty cool is I met one from, and I know Mr. Destin met the same person, but a newly elected school board member from Pinellas County, who's a graduate of Fort Walton Beach High School. Go Vikes, class of '99. So that was really, really interesting when you get to network with all those people. I also learned that the Energy Bus, if you're familiar with the Energy Bus, there was another gentleman that came and spoke to us. His name is Damon West, and he's a part of the John Gordon thing. I do know now I have the confidence of riding the Energy Bus. I can ride the Energy Bus with the confidence of being a coffee bean. And I will have something for y'all to kind of in the future to kind of go elaborate what the coffee bean means and being a dynamic leader. I'll just say again, thank you to all the support. I do appreciate the staff, especially. I know last week it was just busy for me. So if you tried to call me and I didn't get back with you, I totally apologize. But I know Mr. Destin and Mr. Heinley can attest, and Mr. Chambers, from the minute I got there to the minute I left on Friday, it was nonstop for me. So, and when I did have a chance to rest, I was sleeping or I was coming down with the crud, which is what I left with on Friday. I'm on the downside of it now. So, but I do appreciate all your support. Mr. Chambers, I do have one request. You know, what's always neat is that we see all kinds of new technology that's coming out of these these events. And Mr. McInnes, I know how much you really strived and really advocated for board docs and how much you love board docs. Guess what? They have something new out there called Community. And Mr. Chambers, I would just make a request that we look at Community. It is part of board docs. It's Diligent brand, so but it's a lot more friendlier and a lot more efficient. And I would just make that request that we look into maybe converting over to Community in the future. And that's it, Dr. White.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Mr. Destin. Go ahead. I'm sorry?
You left one piece out. You highlighted Okaloosa to start the event.
Oh, yes. I am so sorry. It's Choctaw, so I forgot about that. No.
That sounded wrong, but his intentions were pure.
It sounded wrong.
Well. At least it's on tape.
Listen, so let me just say, let me look down around this room, and yeah, I saw a bunch of eyebrows go up there, Mr. Bryant.
So for those that know, okay, I do represent CHS up on the north end, and I love CHS on the south end. I did not mean that to come out that way, because typically as board members, we try to leave it for our representatives to talk about their schools.
It's just getting deeper.
It is. But when you lead this conference, you get to, have talent come to the organization and present. It was a challenge because, as y'all know, we're about 6.5 hours from Tampa. To have students come down just to perform for one day and then have the arrangements and get them all to go back. They left it up to me to maybe find somebody locally, but with the help of Hillary Demers and Jennifer Denham and Miss Heck from the high school from Choctaw, we were able to get the madrigals. I said it right, because if y'all remember when I was first elected, I couldn't get madrigals out, and but we have so many great chorus programs in the state, but they will always be near and dear to my heart because of that particular incident where I couldn't get their name out right, but I did invite them to come, and they did a great presentation. As a matter of fact, I do have it. Ms. Demers actually has it on where she can send it to all of y'all if y'all would like to look at it. But they did a great job, so shout out to the Madrigals and Choctaw High School. I love Choctaw High School, don't get me wrong. And y'all know I have wore big green colors, even walking the halls of D.C. I was wearing Choctaw colors. So, but I apologize it came out that way. It did not need to come out that way.
And I think all those emails will probably be public record.
Yes, it will. But thank you, Mr. Chambers, for.
All right, Mr. Bryant, thank you. All right, Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I get to follow that. Okay. Make me look good.
Good lesson.
Yep, good lesson. Yeah, we'll learn it quick. I didn't have an opportunity at the last, when I got sworn in, to really address the public or any of you fine people, but I just want to let you know, I mean, I'll have some comments towards that are geared towards the general public, thanking them. You know, I'm newly elected, but having the staff members here, my fellow board members here at a workshop, I just want to let you know how absolutely blessed and honored I feel to be in this role and in this position. I assure you that every decision I intend to make during my time up here will be from a place of how much I deeply, deeply care about public schools, our public school students, this institution in particular, being a product of it. I'm sort of every day sort of feeling feelings of uncanny, unbelievable, how did I get here, but also just absolutely appreciative of getting elected and just thrilled at the opportunity to be able to help enhance this institution. There's a learning curve. I am not professionally an educator. I come from a family of educators. I'm familiar with our system, but I'm going to have to have a bit of a learning curve, of which I promise to be a quick study, but it will be from you guys helping educate me as we move through this process. And I'm anxious to start swinging for the fences, but I can't tell you how excited I am, absolutely excited I am to get to work and to be able to work with you fine people who've dedicated your lives, at least professionally, but clearly more than that, personally, to the noble institution of public education and the role that it plays in our society. So I can't tell you how really, really genuinely excited I am to be here. So I'll say a few more words tonight in that regard, but I'm excited to hit the ground running, and so I'll leave it at that. Thank you to you all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Destin. Welcome aboard. All right, so then that takes us to public comment. We don't yet know, and then, y'all bear with me, we've got 6 public hearings this evening. All right? So 15.1 is a public hearing for the adoption of revised school board policies, Chapter 1, Governance and Operations, presented by our attorney, Mr. McInnes, and recommended by the superintendent. 15.2 is a public hearing for the adoption of revised school board policies, Chapter 3, Instructional Matters, presented by Ms. Sheila Lightbourne, Assistant Superintendent for Academic and Student Services, and recommended by the superintendent. 15.3 is a public hearing for the adoption of revised school board policies, Chapter 5, Student Education Records,
Dr. White.
presented by Mr. Mitchell and recommended by the superintendent.
If
Yes,
I
sir.
could just comment on these 3 items that
Sure.
we're going to be voting on tonight.
All right.
Great job for everybody. Mr. McInnes all the way down. This is something exciting that we have been doing for a few years now, where we go through the whole policy book every 3 years. Definitely updates a lot of things that might have been forgotten, that might, change over time. But I think this is the second time that we've made it through since I've been on the school board that we've actually gone through the whole policy book. So really excited to see all the new revisions there.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. All right, so 15.4 is a public hearing for adoption of a new job description for Program Director Payroll, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 15.5 is a public hearing for the adoption of a new job description for Site-Based Tech Athletic Facilities, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. And then 15.6 is a public hearing for the adoption of a new job description for Specialist Facilities, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. And so that takes us through the items on our workshop agenda for today. Is there any other business, Superintendent, Mr. Attorney? Are we good here? Staff, associations, anything? Colleagues, we're all good? All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Good job, sir.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I can't.